Have you ever noticed how your partner's bad mood can completely derail your day? Or how when your sister calls you really upset, suddenly your heart is racing even though nothing's wrong in your life? Maybe you walk into the office and instantly feel tense because your coworker is stressed, or you leave a phone call with your mom feeling drained and anxious for hours afterward. What's happening isn't a character flaw or a sign that you're too sensitive. It's called co-regulation, and it's one of the most powerful forces in all relationships. The problem, most of us are doing it unconsciously, using patterns we learned as babies that no longer serve us. So today, you're going to learn exactly how co-regulation works in your brain and body, why your childhood experiences are still running the show in all of your relationships likely, and most importantly, 3 practical skills you can use right now to stop the cycle of mutual dysregulation. So by the end of this episode, you'll understand why you can't think your way out of emotional reactivity and what to do instead. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the podcast. You know who I am, Dr. Abby Metcalf. And if you're watching me on YouTube, thanks. I'm rocking some serious Jacqueline Smith hair today, if you don't know who that is. Is that her name? See, now I'm not even sure. Charlie's Angels back in the 70s. Anyway, hey, have yourself a time. All right, co-regulation. I don't know how I've gone 8 years, almost. We're in our 8th season, and my senior year. And I haven't talked about co-regulation. I'm not even sure what the issue is. Anyway, but here I am. I am ready to speak of it now. So what is co-regulation and kind of why should you care? Well, co-regulation is the process by which, how do I say this best? It's the process by which 2 people's nervous systems influence each other. So I want you to think of it almost like a emotional dance of sorts, where your stress levels, your heart rate, your calm, or your chaos literally syncs up with the people around you, especially those that you are closest to. You definitely know co-regulation if you've ever been to a live sporting event, a live concert. If you really get into church or temple, and there's some responsive reading with the clergy person, right? You're co-regulating with the people around you, that feeling you have. When we talk about the nervous system, we're primarily talking about the autonomic nervous system today. So specifically, we're going to get into, I'm not going to get too sciencey, but I always give you a little science. You have to have a place to put this. And I know if you're listening, it's because you're smart and you need to the more you understand, it's why I do it this way, the more you will find value. When you realize that it's real stuff, not just things Abby's saying, and that it's grounded in science. If you're not into science, I don't know why you're here. There's no reason for you to be here. So we're going to specifically talk about the sympathetic branch of your automatic, also called nervous system. There's the sympathetic branch, that's your fight or flight response. And then there's your parasympathetic branch, which we call it your rest and digest mode, or your tend and befriend mode. It's your calm place, okay? Now, those 2 branches of that automatic nervous system you have, those systems are constantly scanning for safety and for danger. They're scanning for both. And the thing is, they're deeply, deeply influenced by the people around you. Okay? So that's what you have to get first. Now, there's something I've talked about before on here called polyvagal theory. And that was developed by Dr. Stephen, I think I always say his name wrong, Porges, Porges. I should know by now how to say that. I apologize to anyone. And he explains, his thing is that our vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in your body, and it connects your brain to all your major organs. And it really acts like a sophisticated social engagement system. Okay, that's what that's doing. And through that system, we're constantly reading facial expressions, vocal tones, body language, and to determine if we're safe. And when someone we trust is calm, really calm, not just acting calm on the surface, excuse me, our nervous system picks up on those cues and starts to calm down too. And when they're anxious, you guessed it, we get anxious. So even if someone is talking to you in a way, that's like, oh, everything's okay, but you can hear everything's okay, you can hear or see their body language or sense that it's not okay. That's what you're picking up on, the nervous system, not necessarily on what the words people are using. If those words in the nervous system are aligned, then you pick up. So, and all of this starts in your infancy. Babies don't have the ability to regulate their own emotions. So when an infant is distressed, their nervous system it's essentially hijacked by stress hormones, like cortisol we've talked about before. And so a baby can't think its way out of it or use cognitive strategies, right? They need a caregiver to help them return to calm. That's what happens. So when a responsive caregiver, AKA parent, but could be any caregiver, the consistent caregiver, picks up a crying baby, makes eye contact, uses a soothing tone, gently rocks them, something really beautiful and remarkable happens in the baby's brain. The parents, I'm going to say parent for now instead of caregiver over and over, but you get my idea. The parent's calm nervous system literally helps regulate the baby's distressed nervous system. So that baby's heart rate slows, their cortisol levels drop, their prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of the brain, such as it is for a baby, comes back online. So I'm not talking about like feel-good parenting. I'm talking about neuroscience. And through really thousands of these kinds of interactions, babies learn what safety feels like in their bodies. They learn that distress is temporary and that some kind of connection brings relief. Do you feel, can you feel it? Right? I know a lot of you have written and told me that hearing my voice calms you. I have some people who say, oh, I'll put on a Abby, guided imagery or something, just, or they'll say they just find something with my voice, some podcast or something. They say it just helps them sort of feel calmer and love, which fills my heart in ways I can't even just describe. But that having that connection it can bring relief. And if you've associated those things, it's a process that's called attunement. Okay, that's what we call that. And it wires a developing brain for a healthy emotional life, emotional regulation later. That's right. That's what we're looking for. Now, but what if your caregivers weren't calm? Okay, I know. And it's not just people raised in Jewish households. Ha, ha, ha. I know there's many of you who might not have had a calm caregiver of some kind, right? And this is obviously where things get a little tricky. Not everyone had caregivers who could effectively co-regulate. So if your parents or whoever were anxious, if they were overwhelmed, if they were absent, dismissive of your emotions, any of that, you learn different patterns. Maybe you learn that expressing any kind of distress led to more chaos, right? Maybe if you expressed any distress, there was shouting or, throwing things or screaming at you or something. So you shut down emotionally. Or maybe they just got upset. No, don't cry. Oh my God, no, I can't stand to see you cry. Something like that, right? Same kind of stuff. Maybe you learn to become hypervigilant to other people's moods to keep the peace, right? Or maybe you learn that the only way to get attention was to escalate your emotions. So these are all of them, whatever way you might have learned or not learned, these are all adaptive strategies. And they made perfect sense as a kid, but they're probably causing problems in your adult relationships, and hence you listening to Wonderful Me right now. So, and there's been a lot of research, really a lot of this comes from the research on attachment styles. And I've done multiple episodes on attachment styles. And for any new listeners, whenever I say the research or talk about a download or previous episodes I've done, you can find all of that below the video here. If you're watching on YouTube, not here, I'm not on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube or at my website, abbymetcalf.com. And you just look for this episode and it'll be there. And for everyone, you should know, I write a blog for every single episode. So this is not a transcript. It's an actual, that's how I get my thoughts together on how I want to approach the topic, what I want to say. So I just write it up as a blog. It's just easier that way. I've been doing it for 8 years. Yes, before AI, it's me writing. I write that all up. And then, so if you have someone in your life who you think, oh, you got to listen to this podcast, or this episode, but they don't like podcast, you can just have them read the blog. Or if you want to go back later and take notes or anything else, I do this because I love you. It's all posted there and you can get to it. Okay. So easy enough. So there's a lot of research on attachment styles, and it shows us that our early co-regulation experiences create this how do I want to say this? Like internal working models of relationships. And those models influence how we interpret people's behavior, how we manage conflict, whether we move toward or away from connection when we're stressed, right? All of that happens there. So let me talk about co-regulation in adult relationships, right? Like that, right? That's next. Okay. In healthy adult relationships, co-regulation would look like mutual support. I'm going to say that again. In a healthy adult relationship, co-regulation looks like mutual support. When one person is stressed, the other provides a calming presence. Not by fixing or dismissing, but by being regulated themselves. Their calm literally helps the other person's nervous system settle. And this happens in romantic relationships, friendships, family connections. I don't care. Think about that friend who always makes you feel more grounded after you talk to them, or a sibling whose steadiness helps you calm down when you're spinning. That's healthy co-regulation. That's what it looks like. But of course, co-regulation can also go sideways. All right. And if you've ever heard the term, what is that term? Emotional contagion, right? That can be when it goes in a negative way. Although I guess an emotional contagion can be positive, but usually when I think of something contagious, I think of something kind of negative. But it's when you absorb, emotional contagion is when you absorb someone else's emotions, in some way, like some kind of sponge. Your partner comes home stressed and suddenly your heart is racing and you're, angry, kicking the dog. Your coworker is anxious about a deadline and now you can't focus on your own work. Your mom calls upset about something and 3 hours later, you're still feeling some knot in your stomach, right? This isn't co-regulation. This is dysregulation spreading like wildfire. Okay. So it kind of is co-regulation, but in a negative way. It's really co-dysregulation, right? Is what's happening. You're dysregulating. Another common pattern, one person gets anxious and is seeking reassurance from the other person, but the other person, feels kind of overwhelmed by that emotional intensity. So either usually withdraws or gets defensive. And now both people's nervous systems are really in threat mode. The anxious person's amygdala, your brain's alarm system starts firing even harder because withdrawal signals danger. The withdrawing person's nervous system goes into shutdown mode to escape the overwhelm, right? Nobody's regulating anybody. You're just two dysregulated people making each other worse. That's what's happening there. Does that make sense? I just want to be really clear on what's what. And again, this pattern shows up everywhere. In romantic relationships, when one partner's stress triggers the other's shutdown. In adult sibling relationships where old childhood dynamics, or maybe are replaying. It shows up in friendships where one person's chronic anxiety starts to drain the other person, right? It's even in adult relationships with aging parents where their fear or anger can hijack your own nervous system, right? If you're not paying attention, if you're not careful. So let's talk about the neuroscience of why this matters. Your brain has something called mirror neurons. I've talked about these before briefly in other episodes. And these are, what are they? They are basically specialized cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing that action. That's why those was AMSR, what I was saying, ASMR, AMSR, those kinds of videos are so great. You know, you're watching someone's hair getting brushed or their arms getting scratched or a massage or a facial or something. You know, they're just like, you start, right? That's your mirror neurons. And these neurons are part of also like, what else? Why you yawn when someone else yawns. But they also play a huge role in emotional resonance. When you see someone's face contort in anger or collapse into sadness, your mirror neurons are activating similar emotional circuitry in your own brain. Okay? Yeah, I know. It's major. And when you're in a chronic state of dysregulation with people in your life, right? Whether that's a partner, difficult family member, stressful coworker, doesn't matter. Your body is constantly producing stress hormones like cortisol, adrenaline, and over time, that doesn't just feel bad. It creates physical health problems, including cardiovascular disease, weakened immune function, disrupted sleep. I have had so many people who, go through a divorce or move out of their house, and into their own or something, or with friends, and find that so much of their anxiety disappears or physical symptoms disappear, their appetite changes, their sleep changes. Yeah, because all that co-dysregulation was happening and it was really creating something not good, right? So again, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, you can have all kinds of fallout. Now, on the flip side, positive co-regulation releases hormones like oxytocin, which is a bonding hormone. And oxytocin reduces stress and it increases feelings of trust and it promotes physical healing. I mean, all the good things, right? So when you successfully co-regulate with people you care about, you're not just feeling better emotionally, you're literally changing your biochemistry in ways that strengthen your bond with that person, and they actually improve your health. And this is a good time to tell you that my free download for today, and I think I've been killing it with the free downloads. And I know that's true because a lot of you have been writing me, thanking me. So thank you for those. I love when I get the emails going, this was so helpful. The free download for today is something I'm calling the Co-Regulation Quick Start Guide. 5 tools to calm your nervous system in any relationship, right? Because if you're listening right now, you probably need that. So that's for free. So if you think you need more after this or a different reminder, definitely download that. I also have, of course, which I have with every episode now, a Therapy to Go bundle. I'll tell you about that at the end. So if this is, again, really hitting all the markers, you might want to go even deeper than the free download, and you do have to pay for the Therapy to Go bundle, but I'll talk about that at the end. So for now, let's talk about the 3 core skills you need for healthy co-regulation. Okay? I mean, there's many, but I broke it down to 3 because, right, your next natural question is, how do you break dysfunctional co-regulation patterns and build healthier ones, right? And to me, there's like 3 essential skills here that you want to get really good at. So skill number 1, I'm calling self-regulation first. And this is the truth nobody wants to hear. You can't co-regulate someone else if you're dysregulated yourself. I'm going to say that again. You can't, right? Seems obvious, I know, but people seem to fight this. You can't co-regulate someone else if you are dysregulated. Okay? Then we just have 2 dysregulated people. It's like trying to be a lifeboat when you're underwater. Okay? Not going to work. So before you can help anyone else settle, you need to get your own nervous system into a regulated state. I say this so much when I talk about effective communication. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Set intention before you walk into the meeting or before you pick up the phone and talk to your mom about whatever. Like, if you can get in a good place, that's how we can try to co-regulate if someone else is not in a good place, right? And there's a lot of practical steps to this. You know me, I always give you practical tools. So I would say first is notice your body's signals. For me, I notice that my jaw gets clenched. So that's the first thing I do is I kind of widen my mouth. I'm doing it right now. I kind of widen my mouth, yawn or something. The other thing I always notice is that my shoulders go up or feel tight. I'm raising my shoulders. So of course your breathing gets shallow whenever you raise your shoulders. By the way, that's because your brain thinks you're about to fight. So everything kind of comes up. So for me, I do things like, yawning or stretching out my jaw. And I also will do a shoulder shrug where I shrug my shoulders purposely way, way up to my ears. And then I just really let them drop. It's kind of like an exaggerated drop. If you do that right this minute as you're listening, you're going to see. Scrunch your shoulders all the way up to your ears, scrunch, scrunch, scrunch for a few seconds, and then just let it go. It feels phenomenal. And then obviously to make sure that you're breathing out of your stomach, not out of your chest. That's where, not breathing out of, sorry, you always breathe out of your lungs, but that your stomach is moving, not your chest moving. So you can put one hand on your chest, one hand on your stomach, and just notice as you breathe that the hand on your chest should not be moving. These are signs you're sympathetic, if your breathing is shallow and your chest is tight and your shoulders are tight and your jaw is tight, those are all signs that your sympathetic nervous system is activated, right? Which is that, remember, the fight or flight. So you can't think your way out of this. Your prefrontal cortex is shut down when this is happening. You need to work with your body, right? You got to do it. And I have so many episodes and I will link to them. And there's so many downloads about how to do that really well. But basically you're using physiological regulation techniques. And the research really shows, I will tell you, no matter what else you do, that extending your exhale, so breathing out longer than you breathe in, activates that vagus nerve we just talked about and signals safety to your nervous system. That's it. That's it. You can try box breathing, and I did an entire episode on breathing, which I will link to, on all the different kinds of breathing techniques, breathing yourself to calm. I think there's nothing better than the breath. I mean, it's so easy. You always have it with you. Box breathing is inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 4 counts, exhaling for 6, hold for 2. It's like a little box. Just the double inhale, breathe all the way in through your nose, and then take an extra kind of sip of air at the very top. And then long, slow exhale out, usually through your mouth, right? Just that. Nothing, there's been a lot of research on the double inhale. That's my go-to. It's so quick, it's so easy. The other thing you can do is just create a pause when you feel yourself getting activated. Again, whether that's with your partner, a family member, a friend, coworker, doesn't matter. It's okay to say something like, I need a minute to calm down so I can be present with you. That's it. I need a minute to calm down so I'll be back in 5 minutes. I'm going to go wash my face and I'm going to come back in the room. Always let people know that you're not abandoning them. It's really responsible self-care, and it ultimately serves whatever relationship you're in. So if you want to be good at creating that pause button, that kind of pause, you're going to need to work on your mindfulness. I don't know what to tell you. It's too late later to think back. If you haven't downloaded my free mindfulness starter kit yet, this is your signal. That is different than the free download today. And that's always free. That's always on the website. It's on the shop page. I'll link to it in this episode too. It's on the shop page, but it's free. And for full transparency, as I always have, if you download anything from me, you will be put on my love letter list. And I do not sell anything from that list. I do not sell that list to anyone. There's many, many tens of thousands of people on that list. All it is twice a month, you will get a love letter. I call it Love Bites in your inbox with a little story, a 5-minute thing you can read to help you feel better. That's it. I'm just trying to help you. I'm not trying to, I don't sell anything. It's not sleazy. It's not weird. I just do it to be kind. That's it. I'm trying to help you. You're co-regulating with me. I'm trying to just help you get into a good state, give you something to think about. Sometimes it's a tip. A lot of times just a little story to help you think differently about things. And if you don't like it, just unsubscribe. There's a big button, unsubscribe. It's not hard. I'm also going to highly recommend that you start some kind of morning practice to get yourself regulated first thing, and then set intention throughout the day. I have a whole episode on my guide, my step-by-step guide to make your mornings great. I'll link to that. I have a great intention setting video, the 18-second pause, I call it. I'm going to link to all of it on all the places I link. Skill number 2 is you have to differentiate between connection and enmeshment. A lot of people confuse emotional enmeshment with intimacy. Enmeshment is when you can't tell where your feelings end and the other person's begin. You absorb their stress. You take responsibility for their emotions. And you feel overly bad when you've drawn a boundary and they get upset and you're just taking on. Again, you take responsibility for their emotions in any way, and you lose your own center in that process, right? It's codependency, it's fawning, it's all those things. True co-regulation requires there's a family therapist, very famous, Murray Bowen, who a lot of attachment theory is based on. True co-regulation requires what's called differentiation. What he coined is differentiation, which is basically the ability to stay emotionally connected to someone while maintaining your own sense of self. I know. I'm a nice Jewish daughter. I didn't know that was a thing. Yes, this is the thing, regardless of your religion, I think. I always think Jews do, we do this thing best. But anyway, we do enmeshment real well. I worked very hard to make sure that my children feel emotionally connected to me, but not emotionally responsible to me. And it's hard some days, trust me, because I just want them like home and I want to just keep them locked up, but I don't. So, and having them have their own sense of self and not feeling any guilt or anything else when it comes to me, it means you can be empathetic without becoming overwhelmed by someone else's emotions. You can have empathy, but you don't get overwhelmed. So let's talk about some practical steps. You want to practice something that a lot of people call compassionate witnessing. Call it that. It's really just empathy. So instead of trying to fix the other person's bad mood or instead of taking it personally, just practice simply being present. That's it. You might say, I can see you're feeling really stressed right now. I'm here. That's one of my favorites. Not I'm sorry. You didn't do anything. Get rid of the sorry language. I can see you're feeling really stressed right now. I'm here. Notice how different this feels from why are you in such a bad mood or let me fix this for you, right? Very different. Use I statements, which will help you maintain your boundaries. That's another tip here, right? When someone's stress is affecting you, whether, again, parent, partner, sibling, friend, just name it. You can say it out loud. Wow, I notice I'm starting to feel anxious when you talk about this. I want to support you, but I also need to take care of my own nervous system. I love that. You're allowed to say that. Remember, their emotions are information, not instructions. I'm going to say that again. Their emotions are just information, not instructions about what you're supposed to do or not do. Someone else's stress doesn't mean you need to jump into action or change what you're doing or become stressed yourself. Sometimes the most regulating thing you can do, I would say even most of the time, all the time, is to stay calm and grounded. That's what I want you to do in these situations. Okay. Skill numero tres, is I want you to create, how do I want to say this? Create intentional co-regulation practices. That's how I want to say that. The best time to practice co-regulation isn't during a crisis. It's when things are relatively calm. So building a foundation of positive co-regulation, I'm telling you right now, is going to make it easier to navigate when difficult moments do come up, right, together. So again, some practical steps, because I love you and I'm always trying to give you practical things you can do. That's what I always do. You could synchronize your breathing. It's so practical. I used to do this with my kids when they were little, but you can do it with anybody, really. Like, let's say a romantic partner. Create some physical proximity and some synchronized breathing. And you can literally sync your heart rates, just so you know. It's kind of amazing. So you could try, if it was a romantic partner, I would say try sitting together. You can place a hand on each other's chest or on each other's back, okay? And just match your breathing rhythm. That's it. There's research on this. It shows that this creates physiological, what we call coherence between the people that are doing it. I know, it's really great. It's amazing. You could use co-regulation check-ins. Ask the other person, what does your nervous system need right now? I would love it if everyone I know it sounds kooky and a little whatever, I'm telling you it's incredible. What does your nervous system need right now is such a great question to ask someone else, right? What does your nervous system need right now? It's so clear and sometimes the other person will be like, what? What do you mean? What is my I'm like, what does your nervous system need? What does it need right this minute to feel calm? And it really invites them, what I like, to tune into their body rather than staying stuck in their head, right? What do you need right now is a very head question, right? What does your nervous system need right now? I can feel it like down in my heart. So they might need movement, touch, silence, conversation, but they need to identify it and do not guess. Don't take guesses. Don't make suggestions. Just ask. You could also do something. I've had couples do this. I've also had friends. I've assigned this to friendships. You can build. It's like a calm down toolkit together. So when you're both regulated, again, partner, close friend, kid, whatever, brainstorm specific things that help each of you return to calm. You could ask certain music, going for a walk, specific types of touch, time alone. And I get very specific when I'll say to someone, I just had this with a husband and wife the other day and we were talking about this. I said, I think it might help. I had the two of them in session. I said to the husband, I think it might help if you touched her. And then he's a lot bigger than her. I was like, maybe on the upper arms, just like high, like just sort of grounding. And then I started to think about it and I looked at her reaction and then I said, well, maybe hold hands. And then I really got to the place where I said, what if he put his hands out and you put your hands on top to the wife? I said, what? And then what if he just put it palms out, right? Palms up, put his hands out, palms up, and you put your hands on top. Because I could see she often felt very sort of overwhelmed by him. And she loved that. She started crying in session. She was like, yeah, that would feel great. I was like, great. So sometimes you have to really get very specific with that. I want you to think about how different that feels if someone were to hold your upper arms versus holding your hands versus putting their hands on your shoulder versus maybe putting their palms up and you put your hand in theirs versus a hug, right? There's all kinds of different things. And having a pre-agreed upon plan reduces that cognitive load when you are stressed, okay? So it's really good to have. So let's also talk about when co-regulation isn't enough. Despite your best efforts, sometimes co-regulation can feel really impossible or just out of reach in a moment. And this often happens when one or even both people have really significant trauma histories or are dealing with mental health conditions like anxiety disorders or depression. And if you find that you're constantly dysregulated together or that someone's nervous system is perpetually in threat mode, I'm just going to say it may be time to seek professional help. I want you to think of that. There's therapies like EMDR, which is the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR. Highly effective, somatic experiencing, emotionally focused therapy. Those specifically address nervous system dysregulation and can really help rewire the early attachment patterns. So, and there's no shame in getting support. In fact, to me, it's one of the most loving things you can do for yourself and your relationships is to get some support. So the bottom line is, what do I want to say? Co-regulation isn't about fixing each other or taking responsibility for each other's emotions. It's about recognizing that we're wired for connection and that our nervous systems are constantly influencing each other. They are. And when you understand this, when you get this, you can stop those unconscious patterns that create the distance, that create the dysregulation. And you can instead really start to build these intentional practices that foster calm, that help build safety and build connection. And I'm going to tell you that to me, the most beautiful thing about co-regulation is it's never too late to learn. So even if your early experiences didn't teach you healthy patterns, which they probably didn't if you're listening, your nervous system is very plastic, meaning it can change through awareness, practice, patience, lots of patience. You can really create the regulated, connected relationships that, I think you deserve. And I really want you to remember, you don't have to be perfectly calm to co-regulate. You just need to be slightly more regulated than the other person in that moment. And next time, maybe they'll be the calm one for you. That's what healthy relationships look like, taking turns, being each other's sort of safe harbor, right? Okay. So let's talk about the lead magnet and the therapy to go bundle. So if you're not interested in those things, you're done. You can go home. If you are, the lead, again, the free, we call it a lead magnet. It's like the free download for today is the co-regulation quick start guide. It's 5 tools to calm your nervous system in any relationship, right? So talked about that, free download for today. The therapy to go bundles. So therapy to go bundles, if you're new, they cost $10 because there's a lot here. And I want to say this. I say it every time. They're just $10, and you'll pay it. You'll get a download. You could do it again below the video on YouTube or on my website at this episode. If any of this is really hitting for you, I'm going to highly suggest you do it. It's $10. If you want, though, a cheaper option is to join my Substack community, which is only $8 a month. And you get every single therapy to go bundle included in that. So there's generally 4 episodes a month on average. And so you get all of them, all the therapy to go bundles for every single one. You can pick and choose which ones you want to download and not. You also get early drops of the podcast. You get the podcast with no ads if you're listening. And you get live Q&As with me twice a month. And you get an amazing, supportive, loving community. I'm in there daily. I love it in there. We post our wins on Wednesdays. We have Wednesday, and on Mondays, I just started this sort of intentional thing. People ask for advice in there. It's like such a great, I love it. It's called the One Love Collective, and I'm really proud of it. And I feel like it is one love, and it's great. So in the therapy to go bundle, if you're interested, there's an attachment history, like mini workbook to help you through that. There's a co-regulation journal. It's 30 days of prompts to transform your relationships. There's a co-regulation practice guide with 5 exercises. Okay. My favorite thing in here is there's a guided visualization. If you love my melodic voice, you will really love this. I call it something like creating your internal safe space. That's what the guided visualization is about. There's also a nervous system reset worksheet. All of that. Plus you get the free download in that bundle you don't have to get that separate, and you can get it all together. All of it you get for $10. It's a pretty darn good deal. And I really highly encourage you, if you do have a therapist, it's a wonderful thing to bring to therapy and to talk about more there. But if you don't, it's meant to be therapy on its own, kind of therapy on its own. Again, get that in all the places I said. That is it for this week. I'm really excited about this topic. I don't know why it took me so long to get here, but here we are. If you have ideas for the podcast, something you'd like to hear about, please, please, please send me an email at abby@abbymetcalf.com or comment below the video or wherever. I'd love to hear from you. If there's something you think I haven't covered, definitely go to my website though first and use those keywords. If you like insecurity in your relationship or whatever, I have 3, what is this? Episode 371, I think this is. I'm almost 400 episodes. So, and they're all like this. Lots of information, all the research, all the goodies. So, come get it. I'm trying to change the world one relationship at a time. It's my mission for world peace. And I feel very dedicated to it, which is why, yes, you can pay for things, help support me. If you'd like to do that, I really appreciate it. But if you don't want to pay, if you don't have a penny, I'm going to highly encourage you, if you don't have any money, but you get a lot of value, you should you still want to do something for me. Like, yeah, don't just sit there and receive. Relationships are reciprocal, like I keep saying. So you could follow me. You could like a video on YouTube. You could subscribe, even if you don't watch things there. Who cares? You could follow me on social media. You could share something with someone else. There's lots of ways to support. Don't ever just, from any creator that you enjoy, don't just take. It's not healthy for you. It creates entitlement, it creates bad things. Relationships are reciprocal. So give back. Feel good. I want you to feel good in our relationship. So give back to me. It's a wonderful thing. Again, you don't have to spend a penny to do it. All right. Mwah. I love you so much. I love you so much. I really do. If no one told you this week, just know, that there's a lot of love in the world and there's a lot of ways to heal. So, okay. Have a wonderful week and I'll see you real soon.